Welcome back. In our last episode, we met Artemis II, the NASA mission that's taking us around the moon and paving the way for a lunar return. Now it's time to meet the crew. Commander Reid Wiseman, a retired U.S. Navy captain and pilot, and former chief astronaut of NASA's astronaut corps. Pilot Victor Glover, a Navy captain and test pilot who became the first African-American astronaut to live aboard the ISS long-term. Mission specialist Christina Cook, an engineer and the record holder for the longest spaceflight by a woman. And Jeremy Hansen, a Canadian fighter pilot and Canadian Space Agency astronaut representing our global partnership in space. Together, they're training for the ride of a lifetime, testing Orion, circling the moon, and proving humanity's ready to go farther. They're not just astronauts. They're the bridge between Apollo and the next generation of lunar explorers. This is Artemis II. Let's get to know the crew behind the mission. The leader of NASA's Artemis II crew is Reid Wiseman, a retired U.S. Navy captain with 27 years of military service under his belt, along with nearly 2 decades of flying for NASA as an astronaut. A Navy test pilot and computer and systems engineer, Wiseman is a native of Baltimore, Maryland. He joined NASA's astronaut corps in 2009 after 2 deployments in the Middle East. Artemis II will be Wiseman's second spaceflight. He flew a 165-day mission to the International Space Station in 2014 and has served as NASA's chief astronaut from 2020 to 2022. Wiseman is a widower. His late wife Carol died of cancer in 2020, and he has 2 teenage daughters, Ellie and Catherine. Their support has been vital for his mission.
I'm an only parent with 2 daughters, and they're teenagers. They understand the risk, but they also understand the value of human exploration, human ingenuity, that drive of humanity to go see what is on the other side of that mountain, to go see things that no human has ever seen before. Right now, there are only 4 humans on planet Earth that have this opportunity, and I'm lucky to be one of them. And I'm flying with 3 of the best people I've ever met, Victor Glover, Christina Cook, and Jeremy Hansen. And to get to be a part of this, no one can say no to that.
The pilot of Artemis II is Victor Glover, a U.S. Navy captain, engineer, and test pilot born in Pomona, California. Before joining NASA's astronaut corps in 2013, he flew 28 combat missions with the Navy, made 400 carrier landings, and logged 3,500 hours in over 40 different aircraft. Glover is no stranger to spaceflight. His first mission, as pilot of Crew 1 on a SpaceX Dragon capsule, lasted 168 days on a trip to the International Space Station. There, he took 4 spacewalks on that flight and made some history too, as the first black astronaut on a long-duration mission to the ISS. Now, Glover will become the first person of color to fly around the moon.
The most exciting aspect of this mission for me is the exploration we're doing is the first few steps on the path of getting humans to Mars, and I don't think that can be overstated.
Glover, who is married with 4 children, told us that while his wife Deanna and family support the mission, they'll likely breathe a sigh of relief once Artemis II's Orion returns to Earth under its parachutes. Christina Cook is the mission specialist on the Artemis II crew. She'll be the first woman ever to visit the moon on the flight, but she's also no stranger to making history. On her first mission, which launched in March 2019 on a Russian Soyuz, Cook spent a whopping 328 days in space, just shy of a year, setting a record for the longest single spaceflight by a woman. 3 of her 6 spacewalks during that time marked the first all-female spacewalks ever, another bit of history. And for Artemis II, she'll do it again, this time as the first woman around the moon.
When I first found out that I was assigned to Artemis II, my thoughts were disbelief, an immense sense of honor and responsibility, and readiness. I'm ready to try to make everyone proud and to really fulfill what this mission truly means to all humanity.
Cook is the only civilian scientist on the Artemis II crew. A native of Grand Rapids, Michigan, she grew up in Jacksonville, North Carolina, and is married to husband Robert Cook. Her first NASA job was not as astronaut, but engineer. when she worked on science instruments for space missions at the Goddard Space Flight Center in Maryland. Before joining NASA's astronaut corps in 2013, Cook had already been to the ends of the Earth, literally, with a year-long stay at the South Pole and Antarctica. And she'd also worked at remote science outposts around the world as a research engineer for NOAA. On Artemis II, she'll work with her crewmates on some of the furthest science from our planet. Rounding out the Artemis II crew is mission specialist Jeremy Hansen, the only member of this NASA mission who is technically not part of NASA. Hansen is a Canadian Space Agency astronaut who joined the Artemis II crew as part of a long history of US-Canada cooperation in space. After all, Canada built the robotic arms used on the Space Shuttle and International Space Station. Married and a father of 3 children, Hansen will be the first Canadian ever to visit the moon.
Finding out that I was being asked to fly on Artemis II was a humbling experience for me. Something that I'm really, really excited about, passionate about. For me, it's a huge challenge.
The support and faith of his family was key in his preparations for the flight.
Sharing that with my wife and 3 kids was also a very special moment for me, watching their excitement as I pursue a dream of mine.
Born in London, Ontario, Hansen grew up on a farm before joining the Canadian Armed Forces in 1994. He studied space science there and rose to the rank of colonel after years serving as a fighter pilot. Hansen was selected as an astronaut for the Canadian Space Agency in 2009. It was something that he'd dreamed of since he was a kid, when flying was an early passion. He'd earned his glider wings at age 16 and a private pilot license the year later.
I grew up on a farm outside of London, Ontario, and for some reason I was interested in aviation as a young child, and I specifically remember opening up Encyclopedia A, which was a book before we had the internet, and looking in there for airplanes, but coming across Armstrong, Neil Armstrong, the first human to walk on the moon, and a picture of a human standing on the moon, and it still burnt. That page is still burnt in my brain. And from there on forward, I changed my treehouse into a rocket ship. I had dials, I had gauges, I was going on space missions. I've been inspired by space exploration from an early age. And so this really is full circle for me. It's kind of where it began, going back to the moon.
These 4 astronauts carry the future of human spaceflight with them around the moon, and their journey will help define the next era of space exploration. For Space.com, I'm Tariq.
Space.com.